what we can learn from 2025 to make 2026 your most prepared year yet. Hey guys, it's Cheryl with Wicked Prepared. Welcome to the channel and welcome to 2026. This is our first video of the new year. The start of a new year is always a time for reflection on the past and a renewed energy to move forward with a fresh start and a lot of times do better based on what we've learned from the past. It's always important to look backward before we look forward because preparedness isn't about just guessing the future. It's about noticing patterns. In today's video, I'm going to do a quick recap of events from 2025, as well as take a look forward into the coming year from a preparedness point of view. What has happened, what is predicted, and practical steps that we can take to make sure we're prepared no matter what comes our way. 2025 wasn't just one giant disaster year. Instead, it was a year of pressure. Pressure on systems, pressure on households, pressure on supply chains, infrastructure, and finances. And most of those pressures haven't just disappeared now that the calendar has changed. I'm going to start off today talking about weather and natural events because that is one of the most basic things that we prepare for. When we think about preparedness, we tend to focus on extreme weather like record heat, massive storms, historic floods. And yes, we are seeing some of those things, but something else really stood out in 2025, and it's something that I've been hearing more forecasters talk about going into 2026, and that is volatility. One of the clearest takeaways from 2025 was that weather continues to be less predictable, not just more extreme. You just don't know what's coming. We saw deadly flooding in places like Texas, very fast-moving, overwhelming rain events all over the place. We saw numerous different flooding events, including flooding in areas that don't usually flood. And we also saw rare winter weather events in places that normally don't see something like that. We saw atmospheric river storms, long-lasting rain systems, and weather that just didn't behave the way people expected it to. Not necessarily more extreme all the time, but more unpredictable with faster swings and quick changes in direction. One notable thing that we did not see in 2025 weather-wise, there were no direct landfalls of hurricanes on U.S. mainland during the 2025 hurricane season. This is pretty rare. Well, maybe not rare, but it's uncommon. So this was the first time it's happened in about 10 years, and it's unlikely to happen again this coming year. So that's something to think about. 2025 brought many other storms showing up outside of their normal seasons. Extreme heat waves stressed weak and aging power grids more than ever before, causing a lot of drought, a lot of increased wildfire activity. That was a big one in 2025. On the flip side of that, 2025 winter storms impacted regions not built for cold in their infrastructure. In my opinion, this trend of weather events at times and in places that are unexpected and unprecedented is the most dangerous thing of all, because that's when it hits a large number of people who are just completely unprepared because they never thought they had to be. So what about coming up? Going into 2026, most experts are not saying that we're going to suddenly see nonstop disasters. What they are saying is that the volatility and unpredictability is likely to continue. And that means a lot of short-term outages, localized disruptions, weather events that may not make national headlines, but are still going to disrupt daily life if this happens where you live. So it means we need to expect the unexpected, and we just need to stop saying, oh, I don't need to worry about that here. That's not going to happen to me. It means preparing for things we may not normally have prepared for. Preparedness here is really pretty straightforward. Have your backup power options. Have plenty of water stored and, of course, shelf-stable food. And definitely you also want to have a way to cook or heat that food. And then also have options that don't need to be cooked or heated. Do an inventory of your extended pantry. Rotate things, move the oldest items into your working pantry, and then use those. Use those in your meals. Replace them with fresh items. Plan meals. Actually meal plan your emergency meals, at least several days or weeks worth of exactly what you'll eat. And then this can help you identify gaps in your food storage, things that you might not have thought about to make sure that you're going to have not just food, but be able to make meals that you're actually going to want to eat and be satisfied eating. I have a ton of videos here on the channel that can help with that. And of course, make sure you have your alternative cooling and heating methods as well. Both of those, even if you don't think you would need one or the other of them. You don't need anything extreme here, just practical preparedness items. Moving on to food supply, availability, and affordability, because food security isn't just about shortages. It's also about affordability and reliability as well. In 2025, we saw prices stabilize just at much higher levels. We also saw shrinkflation continue, quality decline in a lot of things. We saw a lot of trusted family brands that we have relied on for years taken over by big conglomerates without hardly a single word. In contrast to just a few years ago, most grocery stores did stay stocked, but the cost to keep your pantry and your refrigerator full felt much heavier in 2025. I can't tell you the amount of times that I walked right on by something at the grocery store because I just couldn't bring myself to pay the price they were asking. I'm sure I'm not the only one. This is where the benefit of having a well-stocked prepper pantry really becomes apparent. This has really allowed me to control my spending, well, at least my grocery spending, and feed my family on foods that were put back when prices were lower. And then I'm able to restock when it makes the best financial sense rather than just buying food when I need it because I need it. Looking ahead to 2026, we can reasonably expect continued price volatility, more dependence on global supply chains, and things like climate, fuel, and labor all influencing food availability. And of course, with the changes in availability and supply comes changes in price as well. This doesn't mean that there's going to be empty shelves everywhere. It just means less margin for error in our household budgets. This is why deep pantries, long-term shelf-stable goods like freeze-dried foods, cooking from scratch, and cooking from our food storage, these things matter so much right now. Not because food is going to vanish overnight, but because having food on hand protects your finances, protects your budget. Preparing thoughtfully and having a plan when you prepare is going to help here. Focus on stocking foods that you will actually eat. Live by that old mantra, eat what you store and store what you eat. Buy ahead on shelf-stable foods that you use regularly and find shelf-stable versions or options for the perishable foods that you use most. Look for sales, bulk buys, things like that. Stock up at the lowest prices possible. A little bit of research can usually tell you when certain items are expected to increase in price for whatever reason. I sometimes will do videos on this. Get ahead of that and stock extra of those things before the prices go up. If you're not a canner, like if you've never learned how to can, maybe now might be a good time to look into just learning the basics. This form of food preservation doesn't require a lot of expensive equipment that's going to take up a ton of space in your house, but it's going to allow you to preserve a lot of the foods that you buy in bulk at low prices without having to worry about freezer space or power failures, things like that. Take an inventory of your extended pantry and include your freezer as well. This is easiest if you start an inventory before you've built a large food storage. Trust me on that, but it's still important to do it even if you're already, got your food storage going. So keep this inventory, update the inventory. So this is going to help you avoid over or under buying in any one area. And if you go through your extended pantry every so often and pull things out that are the oldest, kind of work them into your normal meal rotation, then you're going to make sure that nothing gets old and nothing gets wasted. Just don't forget to replace those items that you take out. So if you're happy with your current level of food storage, then you can just replace it straight across. And if you're actively building your reserves, then you can use one and buy two or even more, and that'll help you build your food supply. Look into cutting out prepackaged and convenience foods, stocking more ingredients, and transitioning to cooking a lot more items from scratch if you can. If you think you don't have time for that, if time is an issue for you, don't feel bad about using tools to help, like maybe a bread maker. You can get one of those super, super cheap, usually secondhand at like the Goodwill or something. It will pay for itself in no time. You can also put together your own mixes for baked goods and things like that will help you save time while still making things homemade. You can put together the mixes when you have the time, and they're going to be there to use when you don't. Also keep in mind that foods that are packaged in aluminum, steel, and plastic are expected to be heavier hit with price increases in the coming year due to tariffs and similar things like that. Beyond food, looking at non-food goods, another quiet lesson from 2025 was that supply chains are still fragile. Delays have become normal, back orders are very common. Replacement parts sometimes take a lot longer to get than they used to. We didn't experience total collapse, but we did experience friction. In 2026, it is smart to remember that just-in-time delivery is risky. Regional disruptions happen more often, and repairs might take longer than expected. So preparedness is going to look like buying things ahead, keeping spares, spare parts, and avoiding last-minute dependence. Now, here's one thing I wanted to talk about that was honestly not on my radar at all in 2025 or ever, if I'm being totally honest. I think it's something that a lot of people probably don't think about, but it's becoming increasingly important. We always think about power outages, grid failures related to power, and maybe losing the internet because of the power going down. But have you ever thought about a massive internet outage that is completely separate from the power grid? Experts are now warning that the internet has quietly become a critical infrastructure in our lives, just like power or water. And it was really never designed to carry the full load that it is carrying today. There's so many things that rely on the internet that we use every day without even thinking about it. Banking, payments, healthcare, shipping, navigation, communication, emergency services, so much. All of these assume constant connectivity to the internet. And experts are now warning that the question is not if we're going to see a major internet disruption, but when and how long it's going to last when it happens. And they're not talking about just like one cable going out or your Wi-Fi going down for a few hours. They're talking about cascading and compounding outages. Really, really serious, where multiple systems fail all at the same time. While stopping short of saying that a complete crash of the internet will definitely happen like in the next few months, experts are warning that a large cascading outage is realistic, especially as systems become more centralized and hardware ages. A surprising amount of internet traffic now runs through a very small number of physical fiber routes, aging equipment, and relatively few centralized cloud and DNS providers. That means that a single mistake, failure, or a deliberate malicious attack could ripple outwards very quickly. If a prolonged outage does happen, the problems we're going to face is going to be a lot more than just being bored without our phones and our TV and our social media. It's going to be things like payment systems failing, delays in logistics and deliveries, medical systems completely shutting down, that information superhighway just completely grinding to a halt. We've seen this happen on small scales, like even in the last few months of 2025, I feel like. But experts are now warning it could be much, much worse and much more widespread than that. Whether it's a system failure or a deliberate cyber attack, which is actually becoming a more preferred means of attack for many of our adversaries, more than a physical attack, it would mean big problems that most of us probably can't even wrap our minds around. Preparedness for this doesn't necessarily mean you have to become a tech expert. It means things like saving your important information and documents offline as well as online, keeping cash on hand, a good amount of cash, knowing how to communicate without data, and making sure that your loved ones know as well. Have a way that you're going to communicate with each other. And having a simple low-tech radio for information, like if that would even work. I'm not even sure if the radio frequencies would be going without the internet, but having ways to get your information that are very low-tech. A lot of the basic preparedness that I've already talked about and that we talk about all the time does prepare us to live in a disconnected world without access to the outside, and that's important. Just like power, the internet is an incredible tool that we rely on really heavily, and we do need to prepare for it to fail. Next up, and this is a big one, global instability and conflict. This is one area that I think a lot of people have just become numb to over the last few years, just stopped paying attention. And while it is good to have a healthy level of detachment, it's never good to take like a total head in the sand approach. Those are the kind of people who I feel like just run around in a panic when something finally comes to a head. Kind of becomes a ping pong game of like overreaction and panic versus apathy and voluntary ignorance. It's just much better to keep abreast of what's going on globally, not freak out, not panic, not worry too much, but remember that preparedness should be proactive, not reactive. Although for some it seemed to fade into the background, 2025 has actually been one of the most geopolitically volatile years that we've had in a long time. We've seen multiple wars, shifting alliances, major sanctions, and rising concerns about global security and economic stability. And these are all trends that are going to continue to shape our world in 2026 and beyond. The Russia and Ukraine war continues despite talks of diplomacy.
New comments come after Russian President Vladimir Putin said this week that Ukraine targeted one of his residences in a drone attack, but U.S. officials say the CIA believes that never happened. Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service posting overnight that it predicts a, quote, armed provocation by the Russia Special Services resulting in significant human casualties, adding to falsify evidence of Ukraine's involvement. It is planned to use fragments of Western-made strike UAVs.
In mid-2025, a direct conflict between Israel and Iran erupted. This 12-day conflict has left tensions high in the region, as well as between Iran and the U.S.
Overseas now to an ominous declaration by Iran, that country's president saying it's at, quote, total war with the U.S., Israel, and Europe.
Other conflict hotspots around the world include the Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia.
With simulated strikes on land and sea targets, live firing exercises and blockading Taiwan's main ports. This is China's warning to the West to back off, not to interfere in its Taiwan ambitions.
In response to continual provocation of Taiwan's independence forces and the US large-scale arms sale to Taiwan, we will of course strongly oppose them and take countermeasures.
When this many places are unstable all at once, it puts a lot of stress on the entire global system. At the same time, we have seen a shift in US policies, alliances, things like that that are kind of testing nerves around the globe. And the US and China continue to be locked in an economic battle that can slow down manufacturing and cause price fluctuations, prices rising. Another big conflict to watch that's been going on through 2025 into 2026 is the US and Venezuela. This has been escalating over the past year, into this year, moving from strikes at sea to a direct strike within the country. There has been a huge military buildup by the US in the Caribbean Sea, and these tensions are expected to persist and even escalate in the coming year.
Just a day before U.S. strikes rocked Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro was captured by American forces, China's top envoy to the region was meeting him face-to-face in Caracas. That meeting, held Friday at Miraflores Palace, is now believed to be Maduro's final engagement as Venezuela's president. Leading the Chinese delegation was Qi Shaoqi, Beijing's special representative for Latin American and Caribbean affairs, joined by China's ambassador to Venezuela and senior officials. Maduro welcomed the envoy warmly. "I thank President Xi Jinping for his brotherhood," he said, calling Xi a strong leader for the world.
Russian officials are calling these strikes an act of, quote, armed aggression, urging the UN Security Council to convene immediately. Vladimir Putin has openly supported Nicolas Maduro for years now. The two leaders have met frequently, that bond becoming a critical lifeline for Maduro's regime.
Many or all of these tensions are expected to continue in 2026, and one or more could erupt at any minute. Even holding steady, it is expected to influence energy prices, shipping routes, manufacturing, government spending, just to name a few things. We can't control the outcome of any of this, and we can't foresee which way any of it will go. It could explode or it could completely fizzle out. We don't prepare for politics, we prepare for outcomes. Basic preparedness, like I've already talked about, is going to carry us through a lot of situations that could arise. It's also wise to focus on energy resilience, creating financial buffers, medical readiness is a big one, and strong community and faith to carry us through these turbulent times. This next area may be one of the most important to consider for 2026, and that is financial security. In 2025, even though inflation slowed, a lot of households were still feeling financial pressure. They had higher food costs, higher insurance costs, higher utility costs, and just in general, less breathing room. At the same time, AI has begun reshaping the workforce. Some jobs have disappeared or will disappear in the future, but more so, a lot of roles and jobs have started changing and evolving. It's not all bad news when it comes to AI. There have been jobs created as a result of AI, but people are going to have to be resilient, flexible, and willing to change. With or without AI, job security has felt less certain across many industries, many experiencing layoffs or reduced hours. And this is going to continue as 2026 rolls out. Financial preparedness is so important for 2026. First and foremost, look at creating multiple income streams whenever possible to reduce your dependence on a single income and increase your resources to build a savings safety net. Building on the previously mentioned possibility of internet outages, make sure that part of your savings, your safety net, is a cash reserve. DIY skills can also be very lucrative, both for saving yourself money and as a possible source of additional income, one of those extra income streams. Do you know how to build or fix or repair something that could be a service to others? In tough times, people are a lot more likely to fix and make do than they are to buy something new whenever they can. Develop a bartering mindset. Look at goods and services that you can barter with others in lieu of having to make a purchase. As you prepare and set aside extra food, remember, you're investing in real, tangible goods that are increasing in value. Everyone needs food. We always will. Investing your money in that is always going to have good returns as long as you do it wisely, just like any other investments. Do it wisely, prudently, with forethought and planning, which includes rotation to eliminate waste. Stockpile gradually, a little bit each week, a little more each month, whatever works for you and your budget. You'll be surprised at how quickly you can get ahead. It never fails, and it can really save you during tough economic times, whether that's widespread across the whole country or the whole world, or whether it's on a personal level, just in your own household. Take a look at adding extended shelf life items each time you prep, whether that's adding freeze-dried foods or taking the extra time and expense to package certain dry goods for a long shelf life. Even if it's a little bit more expensive up front, it is worth it down the road when waste is eliminated and you have food set aside for your golden years. Many people have begun looking at their extended pantry and food stockpile, not only for emergencies, but as an investment for their retirement, a cushion for that retirement when they may not have as much disposable income for the necessities. I don't know if that's something that's really just happened more recently or if it's just more on my radar because I'm starting to get up into that age, but that's definitely something I'm seeing a lot more of. There really is a lot going on in the world that we really should pay attention to, pay heed to. However, what we saw in 2025 is that burnout is real. People get tired of hearing bad news all the time. There has been a big movement away from reactionary panic prepping towards just quiet preparedness as a necessary part of our way of life. In 2026, we're going to appreciate the peace of mind that comes with preparedness as we move towards self-sufficiency, sustainability, and security. I'm going to tell you our philosophy for preparedness. This is the way that we've always looked at it, the way we've always thought about it as long as I can remember. We prepare as best we can for the worst case scenario. Why the worst case scenario? It's not because we're certain that the worst case scenario is what is going to happen. It's because we know that it means we're prepared for anything and everything that may come to pass along the way without having to really think about each of those situations. And if that worst case scenario does come to pass, we're going to be as prepared as we possibly can be. Usually when a disaster or a situation happens, it isn't what we would have expected. It often comes out of the blue, out of left field, something that we weren't expecting. This is something I've said over and over since starting this channel. Expect the unexpected. If you've prepared yourself reasonably well for a long-term grid down situation, worst case scenario, you're going to be totally set up to handle the next time the power goes out for a few hours or a few days without even having to blink an eye, without even thinking about it. If the big one does happen, whatever that may be, you will be as prepared as possible to survive it. And if it doesn't, you're going to be very well set up to face all of those little things that will inevitably happen to all of us. Now I'd like to hear from you all. I want to know what you want to see from this channel in the coming year. Do you want more recipes for shelf-stable meals? Do you want to see kits that you can put together to be prepared for various scenarios? Do you want to learn about certain types of gear, certain products, pantry lists, budget tips, canning recipes, tutorials? I want to know where you are in your preparedness journey. And, are you just starting out or are you very well seasoned? Are you somewhere in between? And what do you need to help you on your way? What do you want to see from the channel this year? Thank you for being here, whether you're new to the channel or you have been here since day one. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me your favorite New Year's emoji down below and check out this video next for some tips on how to keep from freezing to death if the power goes out this winter. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.